Everybody, and welcome to the Rabbit Trail Podcast. This is episode number 188. 188. All right. We're just excited that you guys are joining with us. Thank you for those of you who tune in, check us out. Do people tune in anymore? Anyway, jump onto the podcast. We are a podcast that basically chases the truth wherever it runs as we pick it up from the Sunday sermons and then kind of to pick up topics and look at what's going on. We're just glad you're joining with us. My name is Greg Harris. I'm the senior pastor here at Olive Branch, the sponsoring church of the podcast, and we're just glad that you're joining with us.
I'm Teresa Harris, and we would love to hear from you. We love to hear your questions or your thoughts, and they can be about the sermon or any other thing that you have questions about. So send them into the Rabbit Trail at obcc.church.
Yeah.
Rabbit Trail at obcc.church. Good for you.
Yay.
All right, and my name is Brent Branchard. I'm the Connections pastor here. And again, whatever device you're listening on or platform, if you're watching on YouTube, Apple, or what's the other one?
Spotify.
That's it. Just like it, and subscribe and hit the bell so you'll be reminded every time a new episode comes out. So do that for us.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, Greg was like, are people even watching anymore? And it's like, okay, doggone it. We are going to continue doing this if there's only one righteous person listening to this podcast. So,
wow, what an illusion. What an illusion.
Yeah, it's like Sodom and Gomorrah. We would not the
No,
podcast.
no.
No.
That just went off the rails.
We'll keep going as long as there's one righteous person out there. So let us know you're out there. If we don't hear from you,
It's right there,
we
the
might
whole thing
question
goes,
your righteousness.
Jesus is always listening.
I know. I'm in a mood again today.
You are.
I know. It's because I'm lack of sleep.
So what's been going on in your life, Brent? Tell us.
Well, my wife is out of town. She's been out of town for a week now.
Enough said.
Yeah, like a little over a week. She went up to visit our daughter and grandkids. And so she's coming back next week. And so she's bringing all the grandkids back with her, all three.
For a couple weeks, right?
Yeah. So the oldest one will be 9. So 9, 7, and 6. So I keep getting really good sleep, but I'm waking up really early, and the next week I won't get any sleep because they like to sleep in bed with us.
And then you'll feel great,
Do they
right?
all
You won't be
sleep?
so
All three of
sleepy.
them in bed with you?
They
It
do.
seems crowded.
It is
Do you
crowded.
have a king?
We have a king,
Okay.
but it doesn't matter, because I will say this about the two oldest. They don't have any concern for personal space. You wake up and they got their leg on your face. They're pushing you off to the edge of the bed, and one of them will sleep on the floor starting out, and then by the end of the night, they jump in. And when I leave for work in the morning, Nancy's got one on each side and one just laying on top of her, and I'm like, I don't even know how you can sleep like that.
I couldn't sleep.
I couldn't.
That, so,
I couldn't.
And thankfully we just did our 16-year-old's birthday, so we have 16 and up now.
Way to go, Drew!
Woo!
Good job getting older.
So yeah, it's a kind of one of those fascinating things. Just add food and water, and they get bigger. And don't neglect them. But it's like,
They multiply.
just don't feed them after midnight. It's fun. It's been good to see him get older, and just like he's super engaged with like wanting to grow with the Lord and wanting to get engaged with all kinds of he's a big get and use his hands kind of thing. And so we got him a paint gun, and so he's doing little miniatures and stuff, and it looks pretty cool. And he always does neat stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
And then anything else did we do? What did we do?
Yeah, I went to my parents up to Green Valley Lake.
Yep.
And got to hang out there. It was fun.
Yeah, man. Had a nice time away with the Lord. I kind of went up to a cabin up in Sugarloaf and had a chance just to kind of be alone and pray and connect. And I realized, wow, I really like being alone.
Do you really?
I can do it for a very long time, apparently. So it was like, oh.
You didn't miss me.
No, I missed you. We talked on the phone. It was great.
Wow.
So
I don't know that I could. I don't know how long I could be alone, with nothing to do, no distractions. I need some distractions. And
like what kind of distractions?
I don't know, like TV, something like that.
Okay.
Now that I'm a crippled old man, I can't run around hiking and running around anymore. So
hiking's no fun by yourself. Like hiking's something you do with other people.
Scares me.
I don't know.
I mean, I walked around on the streets, but not out hiking by yourself. That's kind of. I'm not in that zone. I'm just not a nature guy like that, I guess. As Chunk said, I hate nature. No, I don't hate nature. I like nature.
I like paved streets.
All right. So what are we looking at here? Let's get out of this and move forward.
I know. Sorry
We're all
for all
sleepy.
of those that hate the goofing off, but we like it. So we didn't record last week because Greg had to take off for his spiritual retreat thing.
Yep.
And so we're going to combine both weeks into today. So we will try to keep it concise, but basically we are in the series Handle with Care. And so last week was mindset, and this week, the first week was words. We talked about that. Then mindset. This one was listening this week.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to combine those two things. And I will say that one of the things I thought was funny, because I really enjoyed this one on listening, but I thought it was hilarious that as you're talking and you're making points, so many people are nodding their heads yes, like oh yeah. So there's a lot of buy-in. There's a lot of connection there going
People
on.
are listening.
Yes, they
But
are.
we would appreciate you guys who are listening to ask us clarifying questions. It really does help. Ooh, see what I did right there?
Wow, that's the way to pull that together. So again, when you were talking about mindset, one of the points you made pretty early on in the message was, is your mindset assuming or accusing? Do you and I kind of took that as, accusing being the negative, assuming being the positive. Do you assume the best?
No, I was really asking. No, it's you can assume the best, but it really was kind of both are the negatives. Like, are you in the wrong mindset? Like when you're in the accusing, assuming mindset, there's a lot of just bad assumptions. We're not really great at making positive assumptions. I don't know. Do you guys feel like we're, as a culture, really good at the positive? Like, just I assume the best out of you.
I will say this about me, which I think I am better at assuming the best in people other than my family. Really.
You know him better.
And that might be part of it is that, there's more of a history there, but I don't feel like I give my family as big a benefit of the doubt than I do strangers or people that I don't know very well.
I actually feel the opposite.
Yeah, me
It's
too.
so funny. Yeah, like, because
Well, probably you guys like your family.
I feel like the more you know somebody and you understand their thinking process and where they're coming from, their wounds, and like you kind of know how to receive what they're saying to you. But when you are meeting a stranger, you have no idea what's behind there. You don't know really what's going on. So you're like, there's a lot that you're assuming and you're trying to like kind of piece together.
Yeah, I find this as like a tension in the Christian worldview, right? Because on one side you are like, you want to grow up believing like, oh, everybody is wonderful and good, and we should assume the best from everyone. And then you're like, you become, when I became a Christian, it was like, oh no, everyone's sinful. There's not good, not even one. And so now you're walking around and you have the mindset of like, everybody's evil, everybody's awful, everybody's horrible. And then I go further into my spiritual life, and it's like, no, everyone's made in the image of God. And so they're inherently valuable and beautiful and good. And I'm like, wow, that's the mixed bag problem, right? That's the situation that, like, the assumptions never work, because I could assume they're horrible. I could assume they're great. And I could be right on either front. And it's just, there's this tension involved in realizing that people can have good and bad intentions in their approach, whatever it is. Like if you're a salesperson, I have automatically bad assumptions. I'm just it's not good for me. But and I've tried so hard. Like I get a phone call.
It's
or
not that you think that they have bad intentions. It's just that you automatically think
they're trying to steal my money.
that they're trying to convince you of something that's untrue.
Right. No, that's probably right.
And I guess I don't know if it's accusing and assuming necessarily, but it's more of an optimistic attitude, right? Like I know that some people, like, if somebody cuts them off, on the freeway, I know, like, Nancy gets mad, I know you get mad, and it's like, what are you doing cutting me off? My first reaction is always like, I assume, oh, they didn't see me, and so I don't get mad. Or, if somebody's like on the side of the road and they're speeding forward, some people are like, oh, what a jerk. He's just trying to get 5 cars closer before he gets over. Where I'm kind of like, okay, maybe they're having an emergency. Maybe they're in a hurry. Now, if I saw him do it on my way home every day, then it's like, okay, no. But
There's
my
another
first
emergency.
Yeah.
Or
yeah.
if it was
wow,
one of
that guy lives life on the edge.
Or if we were to really apply what you said earlier, you feel that way until you realize it's one of your own kids, and you're like, oh, they're doing it on purpose.
Now you're on restriction. But so I feel like I assume the best in people, just not knowing much about them.
I find it okay. So I think that there's traps on both sides. Like Greg said, that we're all sinful, but we're all made in God's image, and so we're supposed to. There's innate value there, but you can have traps on both sides. You can assume the best of somebody that's actually really evil and get yourself into a bad situation.
Yeah.
And you can assume the worst of somebody who doesn't have any bad intentions, but just had a really crappy day, and it was just a bad. So I feel like that tension is like, really, what does it look like to live it out?
Right.
Like, what does it mean in the everyday life, and how are we gonna live that out?
But why is it so hard to naturally assume the best in the people that we love the most sometimes?
Well, I think, again, I'm more trusted. I think for me, I find it easier with people I really know in my family to assume the best. There are some cases that I really know them and I assume the worst.
And then you're right.
And then I'm right, yeah. But that's just the sad part. I think that there's also this sense that familiarity breeds contempt, that kind of concept that you can almost begin to assume the negative if you aren't constantly reminding yourself that, hey, I love them. And I think that, and they love me. And I see this in like sibling rivalries a lot. Like the siblings start to get into the assumption that you're against me, and there's this competitive nature or something. We have some of that in our kids, and I grew up with that in my family. But then there are these cases where you start to realize, oh no, we're not against each other. We really want to like see each other grow, and so I think there's a mixed bag there too. I do think there's, and I'm going back to this event that happened for us. We were in Washington, D.C. We'd gone to Williamsburg, Virginia, and we were walking through the old town, Williamsburg, Virginia, and we find this little tiny place that's selling like, I don't know, I think it was, what are the Ices? So it was this like Ices shop. We go and this lady, it was ice cream. And this lady behind the ice cream counter, she's slinging ice cream. She'd be happy. Oh my gosh, this was the grumpiest, where she's like, where are you guys from? What's going on? We're like, oh, we're from California. I hate California. I moved from California. That place is horrible. They're just jerks everywhere. And she's just like being mean to everybody. I'm like, maybe it's what you get back from what you give. Like it's which is right. The
self-fulfilling.
Well, which is the problem with assumptions, right? I think when you assume the best from people, oftentimes receive the best from people.
Because you're portraying that.
Right. And when I expect the worst from people, I often draw out the worst from people because our assumptions are powerful in how we approach. And so there is a sense of like, you have a choice. It's just, are you going to make the conscious choice? And then you got to know what's your default. And I think that's the complication. I have a default, untrusting, negative assumption from how things happen in my life. And it sounds like you have the opposite. But then, like with Tressa, I would assume, and from you, because I know I assume the best until I don't have reason not to, right? And then it's like, wait, what's really going on here? So,
Well, and then, in your sermon, you talked about like whether or not you're in the flesh or, what mindset are you in? Because that was
Right.
the whole sermon was on your mindset. And so it's so funny because the majority of the time, like, okay, any example that you can give in the car getting cut off, why are you upset? Because like they're getting in your way, like they're impeding on your, and so it's
about me.
It's about me. Yeah. So really just like having a mindset when you're dealing with people of putting others before yourself.
And that was one of the things you said. You're in the flesh when it's about you, right? Me, 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 me. And you're more in the spiritual mindset when it's more focused on you, you, you. And I thought to myself, holy cow, I live in the spiritual mindset, because when it comes to Nancy, I'm always like, no, it's your fault, right? And I'm always like considering her, not me. And so I was like, man,
Very spirit-filled.
I really am spirit-filled. I live it without even thinking about it. And I think that your sermons reaffirm how holy I am.
I said it's us against you, me against you. Not so in terms of like this is important. I actually thank you for bringing that language up for a second, even though you horribly destroyed the idea. Flipped it on its head. When I said like the flesh side is this, it's going to be me, you statements. It's me against you, you against me. Right. That's the assumptions, right? However, there are times in conversation that I need to state out the I statements, which sound like me statements, right? It's like, I need this is not selfish. It's a statement of necessity to get into the conversation. You did this to me. That's a different conversation. That might be right in confrontations. We get to that later. But when we get to conflict this week, we're going to find out the I statements are part of the necessary conversation. That's not fleshly. The fleshly part ends up being a lot of you against me kind of stuff. The aim there is one up. One wins, one loses. And the answer is I win, because that's the flesh. It's me centered. This is we win.
Right.
The Spirit of God is
one of the
us.
things that you said was when you are on the same team, you are working together to fix things.
Yeah.
So we're not against each other. We're
right. And that's and I know you guys have probably said the same thing, and when you're counseling with people too, is it's important to remember that the problem is the problem, not your spouse. I mean, your spouse can contribute to the problem, but they're not the problem. Yeah. And so often we want to just focus on them as the problem instead of let's attack this problem together. Because again, like you said, I think that sometimes when we're arguing or when we have conflict, there's I want to win the argument, and I can't win and Nancy lose and us not losing. Right. We win together or we lose together, and there is no middle ground. And so
Greg used to always say that in our premarital counseling that the goal is to want the other person to win. When you go into a conversation with them, you're not fighting for yourself, you're fighting for the couple. And so you're like literally engaging in a way that you want them to win, which I know is probably more about conflict.
Yeah, it's good to remember. We'll probably have to drop that in the message this weekend. Yeah. But it's like, it's like...
It changes your mindset though, right?
Even to the point where you're saying like, even when they're wrong, it's like you want to be able to go, I want you to be right, but I still don't think...
I don't understand, yeah.
I don't think that's true. Because that's that mindset. That mindset is the longing for the other. And the reason I want to point out, biblically speaking, the reason that fits is because the Spirit doesn't come to individuals. And this is really hard as Americans. Like we really, especially as Americans, and it is, I've been listening to a lot of British people lately on podcasts and stuff, and they don't think the same individualistically like we do. They're a little bit, bit communitarian, like I would call it that way. They have a lot of thoughts about how the community is affected, but we think very individualistically, very like, we are this individual and I win, you lose, that kind of stuff. And so I was really wrestle with where I was going. So I just flew away. Goodbye.
You were saying the Spirit came to us as a group,
right? Not as an individual. So the Spirit is this unifier. You look at Ephesians chapter 4, chapter 4, and it's all about like being unified in the Spirit. The Spirit is within us. We are the temple of the Holy Spirit together, right? There's this very powerful unifying effect that we'll get into this next week with conflict, as we talk about like being the same mind and same spirit.
And again, if the Spirit is really driving, the relationship and the conversations and everything else, the fruit of that is unity,
right?
And so I think it is easy to get in a place relationally where you become adversaries, rather than a team, where it's like every time there's conflict, every time we have a discussion, I feel like I've got to watch my back because you don't have it. I got to defend my turf because you don't have it. And both of you are approaching it that same way.
You're not going to get anywhere.
No.
Yeah. And so something's dawning on me while we're talking about this. Like the gospel orientation is like outside of the church. I think for legalists and for non-Christians, they think this is God hates you. I'm against you. It's this, which is very fleshly. And the actual gospel is, no, God has loved you. He's inviting you to be in and be a part of this, to have this spirit of reconciliation and being together. But that doesn't mean the other side, which is like, well, everybody's okay.
Yeah.
And so that you lose the differences and the distinctions that are causing the necessity for communication. Well, if everybody's God and everybody's okay, there's no reason we should have conflict. Well, why are we having it? And so there's lots of weird answers that the world gives for why there's this miscommunication. And so
one point you said that when base assumptions, it's like you against me, it's you against the things I love. And so basically these people are in the way of whatever you love, and so it brings out this nasty side of us, and we have a really hard time. But one of the things that helps me with my kids especially, but in any relationship, is like I try to think through like what I would want in the situation. Like, so if somebody came to me to talk to me about something and they were like, look, I just want you to know that I love you and I'm on your side and I want to understand this, and they came with that mindset and they shared that with me, I don't know, for me, all my defenses would go down. Like all of a sudden I would feel like, okay, let's have this conversation, And so offering that to other people helps them, be in that position.
Totally.
And it brings the guards down, you know, and you can have more honest interactions. And I do feel like, unity should be the spiritual outcome of relationships and, just as a whole, with the church and individually as well. But I feel like the thing that gets in the way, again, is I feel like we spend too much time and energy and emotion trying to be understood than we do trying to understand. And like what you just said, if you sat down and just, this is where I'm coming from, and so there's no pretenses, it's going to create much more openness, transparency, vulnerable.
I'm just going to say, I don't know if that's true. I don't know if we spend as much energy trying to be understood. I don't think we spend a lot of energy on either side. I think we spend a lot of energy trying to make you do what I want you to do and read my mind. I've watched enough communication with children and parents and between spouses that it is literally like I've seen people not want to spend the time to be understood. I've seen it with preachers who are like, no, I'm just reading the word. They need to understand. It's like, well, you have to open it up. We go through all these courses, right? All these classes on how to illustrate and how to illuminate the text, and yet make sure you're saying what the text is saying and show that you're coming from, like, you're trying to reveal the communication so somebody can understand it. And I don't.
Well, I mean, you did make the point that our social media culture, we're all like, we want our opinions out there. We want everybody to listen to us. And so, like, I think that's what he was trying to say about being heard. But I understand what you're saying about we're actually not
trying to be heard
very hard to be heard. We're just speaking and expecting people to hear it.
Well, I joked around, like, Nancy and I don't argue, right? I'm just trying to convince her that I'm right. And I feel like that's kind of what people do when you're arguing and when you're discussing is I'm trying to convince you and help you understand why I'm right, and you're trying to convince me why you're right so I can understand why you're right. And instead of like, okay, let's just stop and let's talk about it and understand better your position.
Oh, that I agree with.
Yeah, because that's what I meant by I feel like we spend so much time and emotion doing that, and like you said, I think we come from a social media. I mean, I don't think we come from a social media. I think it's exposed who we are as a culture.
Gave us the opportunity that we always wanted.
Because the one thing that drives me crazy, again, I feel like people feel like they have to say something, when they're not listening at all, right? And like Sandals Resorts, it's an all-inclusive resort. I told you this the other day. Sandals Resort, it's great. They're expensive, so we don't get to go very often, but it is amazing vacation, and they have like different places all over the Caribbean, and I see people on there all the time going, "Hey, me and my husband, we're celebrating our 20th anniversary, and we just want some feedback from those of you who have been to Antigua and Curacao and St. Lucia. Which one of those is the best, so we should go to?" And then they're like, you get all these things. Oh, I've never been to those, but I want to go to Antigua. Oh, I've never been to Antigua and Curacao, but I've been to St. Lucia. And it's like, that wasn't the question. You guys aren't even listening to the question.
But I want to be part.
I just, and it just, we are that way as a society. I'm going to interject my opinion or my statements without any consideration.
I'm not on social media, but I do see enough that it's like there may be, and this is my assumption, so I get it, but it's like, it seems like people don't often engage in a clarifying question. Hey, you said this. And when they do, the person feels so offended that you would even ask me to clarify my position. You must be a blah, 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 blah. And it was like, we are doing horrible at communication right now. You're on social media. You see it a little bit more.
Yeah, I've kind of resisted it, and I just think it's a terrible medium to have conversation.
Yeah.
I think it's terrible. I think it's a waste of time.
It's not added good things.
But here we are on a podcast.
No.
I don't know.
Not quite social media. It's not, actually. It's considered a broadcast.
Okay, never mind.
And one of the things I think is important with communication, I think it's important with conducting yourself relationally too, is do so with a humble spirit, right? Because I think one of the contentious points when it comes to communicating or how we treat each other in that regard too is I think sometimes we fall into a thought process that, and I'm not just talking like spouses, I'm talking about, you think you're better than me, so I need to tear you down. And, and I think that if we have more of a humble attitude that we want to lift each other up, if they're a narcissist, that's not healthy, but you're never going to win that anyway. So, but having that, the attitude that you want the other one to win, you want the other one to succeed, you want to raise the other one up. And instead of feeling, because I feel like sometimes we don't always think the best of ourselves. Yeah. And it's easier to tear somebody down to your level than rise to theirs.
There are some dangers in falsely puffing people up and stuff like that too. So when we get
anybody, if you want to falsely puff me up anytime, I'm up for it. Yeah, come to me.
No. So when we get to exhortation, because the point of the series is not to bring unity. The point of the series is to use our words to build each other up appropriately, which is what the scriptures and unity is one of those building things that happen. But I do want to be careful, like when it comes to exhortation, it can start to sound like you can't say hard things. It starts to sound like you're not going to have conflict or you can't confront. Actually, those are the big three that are the most powerful building apparatuses with good listening skills and the right mindset. It's
the most shaping. It will shape your relationship.
And if that foundation is strong and there's unity there, it's easier to have those.
Absolutely. And so my point in the mindset is to keep us in that zone away from, because either of you can even take listening in the wrong mindset and it becomes vicious. Because I can listen to you to understand you and then I know exactly how to destroy you. There's this tendency, maybe not with a narcissist who's going to do that, but there's also a tendency that we don't realize we're in the wrong mindset. And I'm going back to something you just said, because internally, I'm actually not healthy. It's hard to listen well when you're wrestling internally. For example, if the voice inside of you is louder than the person speaking to you, you will oftentimes interpret what's coming through. So if I'm deeply insecure and you start giving me advice, I take your advice not as helpful or you building me up. I take it as you're trying to prove me wrong. You're one-upping me. Or we've seen the case where it's like sometimes you're engaging in a conversation and internally I'm just so I'm already hurting about something, and you guys know what I'm talking about. And somebody brings up a small critique, and it's so magnified because you already are blaming yourself for that. You didn't need somebody else to point it out, but it hinders your ability to hear the fact that they're not against you. They're actually with you, trying to help. And this is really critical in like work environments and stuff like that.
Before we go fully into the listening, can we finish off the mindset conversation? One of the things that we haven't touched on yet was
she wants to be heard.
No.
We don't have because we don't ask.
Yes, I was just saying that.
Go to that.
Yeah,
Okay.
no,
Sorry.
go for it.
Oh no.
Well, let me bridge that, because the reality is, if internally, if I start understanding I'm insecure, if I start understanding that I'm hurt, now I see the need that's going on inside of me that's keeping me from hearing you. So I can actually bring that up in the conversation as like, hey, I'm really sorry. I'm really wrestling with this. Can you just hear me for a second so I can get this, so I can hear you rightly? So that
some of my favorite conversations with you is when we're able to like be very clued in on where we're at emotionally and like share with each other, okay, this is what's going on inside of me right now. Like just lay it on the table and let him know. And then he has done that same for me. And it's like, oh my gosh, it completely changes the whole like mood of the conversation.
all the emotions shift.
Now, like, oh, I'm not against you. Now I want to come alongside you in whatever is going on.
Right. So it moves into that spiritual.
And again, one of the things you said, Teresa just mentioned it, is, sometimes we don't have in our relationships what we want because we don't ask, right? So how do you ask in a healthy manner? Or why should you ask? Why is it healthy to ask?
Well, first, before you can ask, you have to know what you need and what's going on inside of you. So you have to have self-awareness. And so I think that's the first thing. And I actually think most people struggle with that more than the asking part.
Knowing what you need?
And knowing what's going on inside of them. Like, I don't think that there's so much going on inside of us, insecurities, assumptions, all these other things.
Judgments,
and so,
guilt.
There's so much, and that we haven't stopped long enough to really know. And I'm trying to think of like a really good example.
Me, you can use me. I'm fine. Like, I have difficulties when she'll ask me like, what do you want to go do? Like, if you want to go do something this weekend, I'm just like, I don't know. Like, it's almost like you've asked me, where do we want, like you and I in a car going, like, where do you want to eat? I don't care. I don't really know. Yeah. But that's like, I kind of know I have my 3 units, but it's been a long journey for me to come to the conclusion of like, what is something I want to go do? And then be able, and then there's a new thing for me. It's being able to say, so like, I'll give you an example. Sometimes people want to ask, like, I think I'm asking a question like, hey, can I go out with my friends tonight? Well, if I'm married to Teresa, that's a mother question. That's not a spousal question. The spousal question is, hey, is it going to interrupt something that we're doing if I go out with my friends tonight? That's an equals question. What's our calendar look like? Is this going to interrupt something that I didn't realize because I'm going to go hang out with somebody tonight? Is that cool? Is that cool with our calendar? Not is that, can I have permission?
But I think
so there's right kinds of questions like that too.
I wonder if this is probably different for male and females. I don't know like what you guys experience, but like, I think for me, when I need something from a friend, so not everybody's like this, but I really struggle with coming across being needy. And so it's really hard for me to admit like, oh, I actually need help. Because, like, in my head, I'm like, I can do it myself. Or I'll be fine. But will I really be fine? Like, am I actually okay? Or am I just barely surviving, Yeah. And I think that is the hard part for me to come to terms with, of like, oh, no, I actually need help with, maybe it's just throwing a party, or maybe I'm just lonely and like I need to ask my friend, like, hey, what do you want in this relationship? Like, where are we at? Like, I need a little bit more from you. Like, is that possible? And I've done that. I've done all of those things. And I think,
sometimes it's just a season,
and it could just be a season.
Yeah.
No, not like, oh, I'm forever going to be
Yeah.
like needy to you, but like, hey, I'm really down right now. I need a little bit,
I think
more.
I think women actually do better with those kind of conversations than men do. And the typical male group, I'm probably talking more outside of the church when I wasn't in the church, would probably mock you for a conversation like that. It'd be like, well, what is our friendship? Oh,
So, like,
it's like,
really? You think so? Like if a guy
yeah.
friend called you and said, I'm just really down. I need some encouragement.
No, I don't think
Do you
they'd
think,
ever say it
Brett,
that
would
way.
they mock
I
you?
don't think any guy has ever called me and said, I'm feeling down. I need some encouragement. Can you encourage me?
We go like, hey,
They
dude,
might go, hey, are you free? I need
what
to
you
talk
up
to
to?
you
Can
about
we hang
something.
out? Like,
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
about
We're
it.
very-
They're
we
not gonna say
very-
it that, like, they're going to be more cagey.
Can I get a warm hug?
look,
But
we're even laughing about it. It's
Yeah.
so true.
but
Brent, I'll
But
give
I
you a
don't
hug.
think that women are very good at it either. Honestly, I think we assume, like, everybody assumes that everybody has all these friends and that, I'm the only one left out, and they're not willing to be honest.
That is the crazy secret, that there's a lot of people who feel like they're always the one pouring out. Everybody feels like they're pouring out. And it's because, guess what? It's semi-true. And we're all trying to pour out to the person we want the attention from, but it's not going back in the same direction. So there's this kind of weird, nobody can pause long enough to go, hey, I want this. Is this what you would like? Because I would like this kind of relationship. And sometimes we don't stop long enough to go, oh, I was chasing that person when my best friend is right here. And in marriages, I think it's really difficult for husbands because we're taught we're supposed to be the leaders, you're supposed to be the man, to turn to your wife and go, I just really, really I just need you right now. I just need, we men, unfortunately, bucket ties much of their needs into quote unquote sex. And I said it in one of the services, but it needs to be said again. Sex is not a need. It's actually not a need. And I know we may get email and stuff about that.
You won't die without it.
Yeah, you won't die without it. Guess what you will die without? Crying. It will emotionally break you. You will die without physical touch.
Or without a hug. Yeah.
Yeah, you will. There are things that literally cause your body to break down. Sex is not one of them. Food, yes. Air, yes. Water,
Does it make
yes.
life more enjoyable? Yes.
Yeah, but
don't
so it's more beautiful when it's a want anyway, from intimacy and connection. I mean, it's kind of gross when they're like, I need you. You're like, that's not healthy. So when we put it in these terms, I think that it's important for us to realize there are a series of emotional, quote unquote, needs that we can ask for. I've got actually a list I keep with me because I'm so bad at it. I've actually started to keep it with me. And so there's check out this needs list. It's pretty good. I got it from a group called Redemptive Living. They do some really good stuff, but they have this list. It's like acceptance. I need acceptance. Now I'm not going to say I need acceptance, but when I'm aware I need acceptance, I can be able to say, hey, I just feel left out. And I just want to know, am I part of this group or not? That would be to seek for acceptance. Affirmation. Hey, I just want to know, I thought I did a good job. Did you think I did a good job? I just need some affirmation that I didn't suck here, or this wasn't a problem, or hey, that, my hair is, or, that this dress looks good. I mean, whatever, it's
is that, because
not that I wear
my
dresses.
brain is also going into the thing of you can have needs that you can become too dependent on other people's affirmation or right. And truly what we want is, even if this is true, even if this negative thing is true, am I still loved? Am I still worthy?
Yeah, and so it's got agency, belonging, comfort, compassion, connection, empathy. Some of the better ones I enjoy is reassurance, respect. I just need some peace. How often does a busy mom with crazy kids when she's young just is like, I know you've been at work. I've been working. I just need some peace, right? It's that declaration is something like, oh, I'm sorry. That'll kick a man into gear. And some of these things are not quote unquote fixable problems in the sense that I need to remove the problem. See, there's a difference. That's a trick, right? When we want to fix a problem, I'm trying to make you not feel that way anymore. No. If there's a need, the way to fix the problem is help meet the need. Now you're engaging both in the emotional connection and the need meeting. But too often what I think we do is we go, oh, you got a problem. What's causing you to have that need? Well, let's fix that. That's not the solution that we're actually looking for in an emotional request, like a true need request in those kind of cases. Sometimes it is physical. Sometimes like, I need you to fix this, or I need you to go tell that person off, or whatever.
And then, and again, I think you guys both kind of touched on it, but I just kind of want to circle around it again, was we don't have because we don't ask. And I love your answer, Teresa, about sometimes we don't ask because we don't know what we want, right? And so again...
Or you're embarrassed to ask about
or you're embarrassed to ask. But I think a lot of times we haven't really evaluated what it is we want, or we haven't communicated it well, because we tell them what we want, but we don't tell them necessarily what that looks like, you know?
So tell me what I want.
I'm telling you what I want,
what
but
I really,
you
really
have to
want.
read my mind onto how to figure that out. But also, you know, I've always told people, like, you know, if you're feeling angry, you know, in that relationship, you know, basically anger comes from like 3 different areas. You know, it's either coming from a place of hurt, you know, it's coming from a place of loss, you know, or it's coming from a place of frustration. You know, I've told you to do this over and over again, and we just keep going over this, you know, over and over and over again. And
frustration is actually is created by not achieving the goal that you desire. Right. So that takes it one step even further. Like, you're getting angry because you're not moving forward. Right. So
and with all of those, I think it's whether it's with hurt or frustration, just going, okay, why? You know, where is this anger coming from? Where is this disappointment coming from? And just really do a soul search to figure out, is there something hurting you? Is there something just frustrating you that you haven't gotten over that hurdle yet? Or is there a sense of loss going on? And a lot of times it's a loss of control. You know, I mean, I'm angry because I'm feeling like I have lost control, and you're trying to take control, and
you lose your agency.
Yeah, and so it just causes a battle. So I think part of that is just sitting down, doing some self-evaluation to kind of figure out where these things are coming from, and then ask what you need to help fix the problem. Not fix the problem, you know, but solve the problem.
To meet them in their need, to connect with them and help them get that need met, which is so critical. So
and I think one way to do that, you know, and having those conversations is have regular sit downs. You know, I think it's important to sit down and just go, you know, like, okay, you know, and not necessarily. I feel like if you could ask your spouse, you know, what was one thing I did this week that made you feel loved? You know,
I love these questions.
Yeah, you know,
We've done this to our kids.
But the other side of that is letting them know in the moment, specifically, when I see you, Greg, playing guitar and singing goofy songs, and the boys are all involved, I love that. I love to walk in and see that, you know.
But just
don't leave them with me after they're hyper.
It's also good to ask, what do I do that makes you feel unloved?
Yeah.
So we've done both of those things.
Yeah.
That way you can kind of pinpoint, like, what is kind of getting a negative.
I know we're talking a lot about marriage at this, but I want to really emphasize to parents, like, this same mindset shift, this same asking for needs works with your kids too. Yeah. You need to work to find out how to help them express their need. Children feel their need, but remember, they don't have language for their needs. One of the reasons we all wrestle with asking is nobody truly walked us through a process of identifying what the need is, learning how to ask for it appropriately so that it can be received.
To ask for,
right?
Because sometimes people ask people that it's inappropriate.
And then teaching them to pray, to ask God for it, seeking it from a friend, and this is so critical, because one of the discipleship things you can do with your children is to help them understand their inner life, so they become good listeners, not just to their spouse, their future spouse, if they have one, but their friends, I mean, a good
At work.
coworker and God. God speaks to us and he wants to know what we need. Right. That James verse works just as well for prayer as it does from other people. And so some of the ways you do that is with listening techniques to try to reach into your children's heart, just like you'd reach into your spouse's heart or to a friend. And so I think these listening techniques to me have been really the most helpful things I've learned.
Yeah. And a couple other questions are just like, what is one thing I could do this week to love you better? You know, is there anything you need from me right now? You know, just 3 simple questions. You could probably get a lot of information, a lot of conversation on that.
So say those 3 questions again.
What is one thing I did this week that made you feel loved? What is one thing I could do this week to make you feel loved better? And is there anything you need from me right now, that I can give to you? But I just want to emphasize, that if something is important to your spouse, or your kids, make it important to you. Be that humble to not just, no, it's important to you, but I don't care.
Going to the Star Wars movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
With my family.
There you go. What a trooper. A stormtrooper at that.
I even bought the tickets.
Oh, yeah. You're so good.
You could. You pay for it.
But yeah, I mean, I feel like if it's important to your spouse, make it important to you, because I often feel like we treat our company better than we treat our family, right?
Because and be honest, it's because it's easier to give the need to a company who's going to come get the need met and then leave, versus a permanence that is established, especially in a spousal relationship. Right. Like when I'm asking you for something and I'm asking you to make what I care about more important, that is a permanent situation.
Yeah.
It's a permanent change. And so we fall into old habits. We want to, and then we just don't because we're sinful. It is so much more difficult because it is that permanent shift.
Clean the house when company's coming over, and do some meal planning when company's coming over. And then when they're not, the house is a mess, and it's like, what do you want for dinner? I don't care. What do you want for dinner? I don't care. But no, just putting those things in. And then, we get into listening as well, and we're running out of time. But the listening I thought was great. And again, I thought it was funny how many people were nodding their head in agreement to almost everything you said. But you started it off with the stud finder, and was talking about the analogy of the studs in your house being the support system that everything else hangs on.
Right.
And if you just screw it into the drywall, you're going to put that heavy picture on and it's going to fall or whatever. But if you get it into the studs, it's stable. The foundations are there. I love that analogy. Where did you come up with that? Did you come up with that on your own?
Yeah,
you were playing with your stud finder. And money, I found it.
Yeah, exactly. It came from just the fact that listening, and then we're working with tools, and then coming up to the reality, like, that stud finder really does hit those very core critical beams that everything hangs off of. And
you cannot have a healthy relationship without it.
Yeah. If you don't listen, nothing's going to stand together. You're just going to tear each other apart. Right. Everything you try to build is going to fall apart. Listening is so critical. I think that's why James put it at the very beginning of a very serious book.
One of the things that I actually have been thinking about, because our whole family obviously listens to the sermon, and we've been talking about it a lot, and I've had some interesting conversations with our kids, and I had a slight argument with one of them the other day. I think it was yesterday, and I realized that it's really hard to hear people because you have so much noise in your own head and so many assumptions
and so many other people in our house.
So many preconceived. It's also just loud in our house. No, but I just thought, oh my gosh, but you have to be really patient, and you have to choose. I'm going to be a good listener. And I'm going to try to figure out what you're saying to me and what it is that you're seeing that I'm not seeing right now. Mm-hmm. And it just takes patience. And you have to want to know and understand this person, Anyways.
What do you think is the difference between hearing and listening?
Oh, I think hearing is just the words go in, but you assume you get it, and you just I get you. It's like with people who say, no, I hear what you're saying. It's like, Well, then prove to me that you're listening.
Right.
Hearing is being present for the noise to echo in your head. There are some people who there are times when I'm not even paying attention, so I'm not even hearing you. But I think
He'll just walk away.
not you, just other people and strangers.
Yeah.
I just assume you're horrible, so I just walk away. I was like, no, they're. So I do think that hearing is like I can get the words in, but it doesn't mean I understand what you're saying.
I think one of the big differences in hearing and listening. Number one, hearing, you're hearing the words, right? And you know you're only hearing and not listening when in your mind you are formulating a rebuttal before they finish their sentence.
Right.
You know,
Which is
I know where you're going, and let's cut this short, and I've got a rebut right now.
Or you use that trigger word of Donald Trump, or you use that trigger word of, now I'm all freaked out. And it's like, oh my gosh, I'm not even talking about that.
And there's a book called Now That We're Engaged. I think it's out of print now. But I think you can get it on Kindle, I think. It was one of the best premarital books that you could get.
It's just a good relationship book.
It is. I mean, I've done it with married couples and stuff like that too. But one of the things they were talking about communication and hearing versus listening, and one of the quotes in there was, okay, number one, we process information at such a faster speed than somebody can actually speak it, right? And that's where we jump ahead and we get to the end of their thought before they get there, and then we want to interject and argue before they've even finished talking. And it said that listening is the sacrifice of being patient enough to take the journey with them, And so instead of allowing your mind to just get to the end of this and, it's like, no, I'm going to shut up. I'm going to really listen. I'm going to try to understand and take this patient journey with them. Because I will tell you that when you're having conversations like that, the interruptions heighten the emotions. And my oldest daughter and me, I love her to death. But we argue the same. And every time I'm like, no, I'm not going to let it happen this time. No, we both argue. We both think we know what you're going to say. We both think we're right, and we argue, and it's it's always bad.
I definitely feel like I have impatient ears, and it's a skill I have to practice more.
Yeah, now there's another side to pacing.
Oh, and I do think that depends on the thinking. I mean, some people are emotional, so they're just responding emotionally to people.
Right.
But for me, I'm analytical, so I'm analyzing you, and I'm like assuming what you're going to say and what your point is and what your motivation is. So part of, for me, is becoming a good listener is just calming my brain down and not allowing my brain to do so much work and just listen to the person's words and then let it go.
And actually there's a good healthy sense of self-doubt that you need to hold.
Yeah.
That I don't know.
I'm wrong a lot.
Right.
Sometimes, not a lot.
And so because there's two sides, like some pacing can, like if you just strictly focus on pacing, you can't just focus on pacing. You can go so slow that somebody can't concentrate.
Right.
Like you're just like, I don't know, what are we talking about again? I feel like I'm so lost because like this has been such a long conversation. So there is a speed at which you have to kind of engage depending on who you are.
That's why I loved you talked about both angles. Preparing, like being a good listener and being a good speaker so that the person can actually hear you. You're setting them up for success instead of...
There was a little bit of like, just to be quite honest, subtext in what I was preaching, because there is a sense that like one of the reasons this is so critical to me is that you, as preachers, when you're preaching, you work really hard to try to ensure what you're saying is graspable. It can be picked up. I get one shot. You're not going to come back from multiple sermons, or you're not going to typically raise your hand and ask questions. I think we lose something in a kind of a setting like that.
I'm sorry, but if you let people do that, they would.
No, I know they would. And we would
It would be mayhem.
It would be
Okay,
absolute
keep going,
mayhem. But
sorry.
that's why we ask for you guys to ask your
Ask
questions.
questions.
The because we like it. But there is a sense that you set the audience up a lot, and not like there's a setup. No, I'm trying to set the mind in my opening illustration to receive it, to lean in, to be curious. I'm trying to help put the language together so it's something you can grasp fairly quickly. Sometimes I make it vague because I want you to lean in a little bit and be more curious. Like, okay, why'd you say it that way? And well, I'm going to open that up.
Well, you also said you don't use certain words so that you don't trigger people, and I loved that. Like how much thought you're putting into presenting.
And that's how much thought we should put into most of our conversations together, especially serious ones. I'm not talking about like your regular daily banter, but I'm talking about if you've got a serious carry, especially early on in marriage, early on in parenting, when your kids are coming to that like early, I would say 5th, 6th, 7th grade, where you think they're not listening anymore, that's where you start getting engaged in how do I help set this up so you can hear me? Because you're moving more into influence. You're trying to move away from control, and you want to give them a voice, and you want to hear their voice. And if they're giving you a one-word sentence back, then you want to dig in a little bit, ask the clarifying question. Well, what do you mean by fine? Well, I mean fine. Well, I don't use that word the same that you do. What happens that's fine? Describe fine for me. It's like you gotta. Yeah, it's painful, but you're patient with them. You're helping them put words to what's going on. Now, obviously, if they don't want to talk to you, you say, do you not want to talk to me? You just got to ask that question. But I do think that with the setup, it's so critical. Like figuring out how you're going to help them have the best conversation possible.
Yeah. The one thing I love about this series is every week I'm like, ooh, we could talk about this and this and this. But then I'm like so trepidatious about, well, that might go into next week, So I don't want to like discuss something today that's going to be in next week's sermon. And
that's okay.
But one of the things you talked about too that I think is critical, because we are fallen, broken people, and our relationships oftentimes have friction in them, but so sometimes our discussions can get heated. Our emotions can get a little out of bounds. And you talked about you should be able to take breaks, and I really like that. And you were talking about just when it gets there, take a break, walk around the block, whatever, but you need to re-engage. And I think that's the important part, right?
Right. Yeah. It's always, how do we say it? If you take the time out, you got to declare when the time's back in, and you do it before you leave. We really suggest that you go process with the Lord, not by yourself. Don't go off to go text and tell your friend all about like, rah, rah, rah. No, it's about like, I need to go pray. I'm trying to think and calm myself down. What am I upset about? Ask yourself questions. In fact, listening to yourself and what you're telling yourself is the same skills. And so sometimes your pause, you're going to do those kinds of things. The time in is typically like because I think it's gracious. I'm the timeout kind of guy, in the sense that like, sometimes it's like, I just need to get away. But then she wants to finish. So, right? Like,
yes, I definitely I could go at any conversation any time of the day pretty much.
Yeah, she's ready.
But again, and I think that there are different kinds of timeouts. There's kind of timeouts where things are heated and it's just like, we're not getting anywhere right now and things are getting uncontrollable.
We're not listening,
okay, let's just stop. Let's take a break and reset. I need to get my emotions in check. So let's take a breath. Let's ponder. Let me walk around the block, blow off some steam. And then when we come back, temperatures will be cooler and we can re-engage on a lower level.
I've had times where I've had to choose to bring the temperature down on myself because I can walk away and reverse.
Yeah.
And
that makes it
worse.
Your mindset is an important part of that.
You have to change the mindset.
But then there's the other side where, all of a sudden, it's bedtime, this discussion comes up, things are heated. I got to get up at 5:00 in the morning. I don't have time for this discussion, and we're not getting anywhere. We've been arguing for an hour. So, hey, tomorrow when I get home from work, we're going to discuss this again, but I got to get some sleep, and we're not going to settle this, And so, again, don't let the sun go down on your anger. I don't think that's a literal, because the sun has already gone down.
Right.
But it's like, don't let it just sit there. Mm-hmm. And so when you get home, because you said, when I get home tomorrow, we'll talk about it. And it's not like as soon as you walk in the door going, all right,
I've been planning this all day.
There's part of that, I've been rehearsing this. I'm going to put you in your place. No,
what are we talking about? Oh, yeah.
So again, you got to, you got to care for where they're at right now and give them time to process. And, okay, when the kids get to bed, we'll talk about it or whatever. But I will say this, whoever calls the timeout, it is so important, like you said, to be the one to call the time in, but not like, okay, tomorrow when I get home from work, we'll talk. And now you show up tomorrow and you're waiting for them to bring it up, Yeah,
no, you have to bring it up.
You have to be the initiator as well.
Right.
Hey, because I will say this, that if you practice that and you get a good, healthy rhythm in doing so, it's going to work for you. But if you're the one that calls the timeout and doesn't initiate the re-engagement in a proper way, then you're not going to be allowed to take timeouts anymore because you're just doing this because you don't want to deal with it and you want to just escape the problem, and it never gets settled, and we never,
In fact, there are people who get into that habit and they will call the timeout and they never call it back in, like you said, and it ruins it. You just take responsibility for your own communication. Take responsibility for, you timed it out. That means step up and start it back up.
I think too, if you're on both ends, but on the person that could sweep it under the rug and not deal with things, I also think that is something that you should look into, because there's probably something going on in your story of origin and
you're
how
losing
you grew
the
up.
argument.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not just that, but there's probably a way of you dealt with conflict, or your family dealt with conflict, or some kind of an
we'll get a little
immersion,
bit of that this week. I think that the other thing, though, that I want to point out is if you're dealing with children and there's a timeout situation where you're not putting them in timeout, but it's like a pause in the conversation. As the parent, you may need to teach them how to reinstate the conversation. So remember, the parenting dynamic's different, because as married couples, you're coming as equals. Parenting, you're coaching them how to do it right. And so it may take a couple times that you've shown them how to pause and come back in and say, hey, this is a time that we need to finish that conversation we had. I know we stopped it, but we need to finish this. And it teaches your children how to take that on. And then you say, next time I expect you to bring it back up. If we have to pause, and those aren't going to be very often, but it's really important. These are things we teach our children that the scriptures have taught us to do. So,
and just setting the table for it. Just like come home and just hey, I love you, and I'm looking forward to trying to, take care of this issue that we have and see if we can resolve it.
What would you say you are, Brent?
How do I conduct myself?
Are you like somebody that needs the break, or are you the one that wants to finish it right
I'm
then and there?
pretty good at both. I'm pretty good
I
in the
forgot,
sense.
Brent's perfect.
I know. But I'm really serious, though. I'm the type that if it starts to get elevated, then I'm cool with taking a timeout, I'm cool with even just de-escalating the situation. And then usually I'm the one that wants to talk about it again. And I don't mind waiting for tomorrow or a couple of days to do so. I'm not the one that we have to do it. I'm probably more in line with the one that wants to time out, especially in Nancy's mind history. I had jobs where I had to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and
you just couldn't.
She's a night owl, and she's like, let's go. And I'm like, no, I can't. We've been doing this for an hour now. I need to get some sleep. So, but one of the things that we always practiced in our marriage, that when we first got married, I told her, I said, number one, nobody's going to sleep on the couch. Regardless of what's going on, nobody's sleeping on the couch. It's our bed. And so number two, nobody's going home to mom and dad's house, when you're mad or angry. So we need to figure this out. And the third thing we always did was, even when we went to bed hating each other, and you're just like, we always initiated, we would kiss, we would say, I love you, and then we would roll over to our side of the bed as far away from them as we possibly could. But I felt like that was always important, to just let them know that the relationship's okay.
It's not over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This isn't the end
We're
of
just
it.
working through something.
I love you, and
We're
I'm not
on
going
the
anywhere.
same team here.
Right.
You can't,
know?
we may be having some tension, but we're going to work this out because we want this to work.
Yeah.
That's that
What didn't you say
mentality.
that in this sermon where you said to like sit near each other and eye to eye? Yeah.
Yeah, it's really critical that you have those
Or
body
even touch,
postures,
yeah.
even touching, to where it's like, I'm not your enemy. I am your spouse. I am not your enemy. I'm your dad or your mom, and I love you. I'm not your enemy. I'm your brother or your sister. I mean, I've even had to bring that up for our kids. Like, don't, there's no enemies here. We're all on the same team.
Right.
Nobody's trying to prove anybody wrong, evil, or otherwise. So let's, and it just kind of helps. It's like you wake up from this fog. You're like, oh yeah, like you guys aren't like
We're not against you. Yeah.
against me. Oh, well, yeah. And this kind of calms everything down, engages in a different mode. You're like, okay, so what are you trying to say? It's so that mindset is critical. And I say that, and I'm going to kind of wrap up this in this zone. I go back to the mindset, and we're going to keep going back to the mindset, because all of these tools, like I said earlier, whether the tools of listening, whether the tools in how to engage with conflict, or how to have a good, loving confrontation, or something like, or an exhortation, all of them can be twisted by our sinful nature, so that you could set it up and be manipulating them to think that you're listening. But you're really, like, this is what narcissists do. They use all of this natural information that they learn to garner somebody's attention and then to manipulate them into a situation. So I'm not doing this to try to say, hey, be careful. I'm just saying, know where your heart is. Like, even with listening, we can use all these tools to be vicious to each other. I can use the tools of listening to win an argument, and that's not what we're out for.
Mm-mm.
I can use these tools of listening to get what I want in a manipulation, and that's sinful as well. And so all of this information, again, I believe is super helpful if and only if we're walking in the Spirit, which is what Jesus Christ gave us. He is the Spirit of reconciliation. He is the Spirit of unity. He is the one who shows us we're right with God, so we can have that relationship. And so just as Christians, we need to walk there as much as possible.
And we need to have the mindset that we want a healthy, thriving relationships in our life with our children and with our spouses. And if that is not your mindset, I don't care anymore, go seek some professional help to help change your mindset. And especially if you have a spouse that is cooperative, right? It is much harder if you have a spouse that, I don't care what you want. I'm not going to give an inch, and you just suck it up. This is what you signed up for life, And there are relationships like that out there that break my heart, But yeah, I mean, hopefully both of you have a mindset of we want the best marriage, and then go and get your mindset adjusted and get some good tools in your toolbox.
So we're just glad you guys joined us. If you're interested in that book, it's called Now That You're Engaged by Norm H. Wright. H. Norman Wright. And it is actually still on Amazon. I'm looking at it now. It's about $15, or you can buy it on Kindle. And so both of those are available. It's a great book on relationships.
It's stood the test of time. We've been using it for
20 years.
20-something years.
Yeah, I've been using it forever, and then it went out of print, and I bought like all of them because we were doing premarital counseling. And then I finally called them and said, "Can we buy the rights since it's out of print and you're not going to print anymore?" And they said, "No, you can't buy the rights because we still have it on Kindle and stuff like that." And I was like, "Oh, but it is good."
So it is still available. It's out there, and so it's super. That's it. That makes me happy. We're just love to give you guys these resources. There's also a couple other places you can look for. There's a book I've been using. and I kind of handed out a little bit newer book out on the market called The Next Conversation, and by what was his name? Jefferson Fisher. And he's got a great podcast on communication, and his book is very practical. And a lot of people have been coming up telling me, "Hey, I found this book by this guy Jefferson Fisher. I heard him on a podcast." And I'm like, "Yes, read that book. It is a good practical tool." And so, and your Bible's amazing. So read your Bible, people. It's the best book you can find out there. So thank you guys for joining us. We hope that you enjoyed this conversation. We hope that you are listening, not just hearing us. And so if you have some clarifying questions, if you're curious about something that we said, if you've got a situation that you're like, well, what would I do here? And we will keep your name off it. We'll even try to address it to help you out. We would just love to hear from you. Drop us a line. You can send an email to our email, rabbittrail@obcc.church. That's rabbit, that's one T, and then trail, that's the second T. So rabbittrail@obcc.church. We will receive that. We would love to answer your question on air. And so we're just glad that you guys have joined with us today. And from all of us to you, God bless you. Have a great week. We will see you next week.
Boom, check the